Okay, so yes, welcome back to class, guys. It's a great pleasure to have you all on board. So, in today's class, we'll be looking at the second module. So, we looked at the first module 2 weeks ago. We're looking at the second module. So, this week and next week would be done. We should be done with the second module. We have 6 modules for this course. So, yeah. Um, So in today's aspect, we are looking at financial ratio analysis. Yes, we are looking at financial ratio analysis, and we're just looking at 3 of them, 3 categories. We have more than this, but we'll just look at these 3 categories tonight. So we'll look at the profitability, the liquidity, and the efficiency ratio. These are the ratios we'll be starting with tonight. So our learning objective is that at the end of the class, everybody on this in this room should be able to compute and interpret key financial ratios that has to do with profitability, liquidity, and efficiency. So you'll be able to understand why do we need to calculate these ratios? Why are we calculating them? What are they used for? Which metrics do we use them for? Yes, so you also understand how to apply return on capital employed and operating profit measures. You also understand the business model influence on performance, and you would also be able to present your ratio insights effectively. Yes. So, introduction to financial ratio. Now, when we're talking about financial ratios, ratio are, as the name implies, if you say ratio means that you are combining different things mathematically. Yes. So it says that ratio analysis involves examining quantitative relationship. Yes. So if you say ratio, you are comparing 2 or more things. Yes, before you can get ratio. And in most cases, you divide, you say you have the numerator and the denominator. So that's just that. So ratio involves examining quantitative relationship between figures on the financial statement. So that is financial ratio. We have other types of ratio anyway that are not financial, but because we are in a financial analysis class, we'll be looking at just the financial ratio. So financial ratio has to do with examining the quantitative relationship between the figures you have on your financial statement. And the essence of this is just to measure the company's performance, to measure the company's efficiency, to measure the company's liquidity, to measure the company's overall financial health, to measure the financial position of the company. So yes, so and we can say that the ratios serve as vital diagnostic tools. Now, in the business world, we say that financial analysts are practitioners that identify the problems of businesses and recommend solution. So yeah, so just like if you have if somebody in this room have a medical problem, the person will just go to the doctor, and the person will tell the doctor his or her problem, and the doctor will prescribe a solution. So now financial analysts, they give help to companies that do not even know their problem. Yes, financial analysts will be able to identify those problems for the company, recommend solution, and how the company can perform better. So yes, through ratios, we can use this to identify problems and also recommend solution. So the power of ratios, the ratio helps us to reveal crucial trends over often hidden in the raw financial statement. So now there are some things that are hidden in the financial statements, but while you are performing your ratio, those hidden things begins to unfold, and your understanding of ratio will help you to interpret what is in the financial. So On the other hand, ratio can be used to interpret the content of the financials. So yeah. So another thing is it enables meaningful comparison across different time periods and diverse industries. So you can use ratio to compare the performance you had last year with the performance you have this year, or the performance of the company for the past 5 years. So yeah, comparison. We use ratio for this. And we also use to provide a diagnostic view for effective decision making. So we have categories of ratio. We have the profitability, we have the liquidity, we have the efficiency, we have the solvency, we have also investors ratio. Yes. So we'll be looking at the other ratio categories next week. But in today's class, we'll just focus on these three categories: profitability, liquidity, and efficiency. Now, when we're talking about profitability, it measures how the business generates return efficiently. How the business generates return efficiently from its operation. So that is what profitability measures. Liquidity measures the company's short-term financial flexibility and ability to meet immediate obligations. And when we're talking about liquidity, we are looking at the ability of the company to manage its working capital. Then efficiency, on the other hand, measure how effectively the resources are utilized to generate revenue. Now, before we go ahead, I'm going to dive deeper into each of these ratio, but I don't know, can anybody tell us what he or she understand about the difference between profitability and liquidity? Anybody? The difference between profitability and liquidity. Who wants to give us a try? I believe the four of us are on this call. We understand finance to an extent. So I just want us to also contribute. So yeah. So what's the difference between profitability and liquidity? Anybody? Oh, nobody wants to talk. Okay. So all right. I actually like an interactive class, but let me just take this since I'm not getting the feedback I want. So profitability is rent from liquidity. Profitability actually, so let me explain. I'm going to ask another question. So please, let's be ready for that. Let's be ready for that. I always like an interactive class. Profitability has to do with you, the company, having more income than the expense. So yeah, if your income is more than the expense, then you are profitable. If it is the other way around, we say that, oh, you are not profitable, the company is making loss. So if the income is higher than the expense, then that company is profitable. But if the expenses are more than the income, then the company is not making profit. So profitability has to do with you being able to earn as much revenue and incur less cost possible. So that is actually what profitability is measuring. Your ability to minimize your costs and maximize your income. So yeah. Now liquidity on the other hand is measuring how liquid you are. So liquid in the sense that, do you have enough working capital to run your business? So, and when we're talking about working capital is the difference between current asset and current liability. Do you have enough current assets to take care of your current liability? That is what liquidity is. So, if your working capital, if your current asset is higher than the current liability, we can say that your business is liquid. But if your current liability is less than if your current liability is higher than the current assets, then we say that the business has liquidity problem. Yeah, and if care is not taken, the business can die down or liquidate. So yeah, if a business does not have liquidity, the business can liquidate. So yeah, so liquidation means that you don't have liquidity. So yes. So that is actually what liquidity is. I believe we all understand the difference now because I will still ask questions. So based on the definition I've given, and I also understand that we are in the finance space and we understand this thing. If you have to choose one out of profitability and liquidity, what are you going to choose? I think I would like to hear feedback from everybody. What are you going to choose? If you have to choose between liquidity and profitability for your business, which one are you going to choose? Are you going to choose liquidity or are you going to choose profitability? Okay, I think somebody sent a message on the chat. Profitability, Abidemi. All right, let's have the other people on the call. If you have to choose between profitability and liquidity, which one are you going to choose? Profitability or liquidity? You can talk or use the chat. Please, I would like us to respond to my question. This gives me the feedback that we are following. Mr. Emmanuel, the two Mr. Emmanuel, can you tell us your opinion? Just drop it in the chat if you don't want to talk, or you can unmute and talk too. If you have to choose between profitability and liquidity, which one? Okay, profitability. All right. So, okay, yes, profitability. Okay. That's actually a very good choice. Yes, that's actually a very good choice. So, liquidity is also important, but I think profitability comes first. Yes, profitability comes first. Yeah, liquidity is also very, very important, but profitability comes first. Yeah. So yes, that's a very good decision. I can see that everybody choose profitability. So that's a good one. So let's look at each of the ratio one after the other. So let's start with the profitability ratios. So for profitability ratios, as I've said, you are measuring the profit of the business. Profit has to do with income minus expense. So now, the profitability analysis assesses not just the quantum of the profit, but the efficiency with which capital and assets are deployed to earn that profit. So we have different types of profitability ratio. Yes, I have four of them right here. We have the gross profit margin, the operating profit margin, the return on assets, then return on capital employed. Now, each of these ratios have different metrics they perform. Now, the gross profit margin actually indicates control over production and input cost. So they're like, okay, let me look at the direct cost. Let me compare the direct cost with the revenue. So if you deduct direct cost, which is cost of sales, you get your gross profit. If you compare the gross profit to the revenue, that's the gross profit margin. So now, under your profitability, if you mention margin means divided by revenue. So you need to know that as a financial analyst, you need to know all the ratios possible. You need to know all financial ratios possible. Yeah. So gross profit margin is gross profit divided by revenue, and you are only comparing your revenue subtract all your direct costs, like cost of sales. So if you deduct cost of sales from revenue, what you are left with is the gross profit. You are saying gross profit divided by revenue times 100. So you express it in percentage. So that is your gross profit margin. The operating profit margin is your operating profit divided by revenue. Now, your operating profit is after all your operating expense has been, after all your operating expenses have been deducted from your gross profit. Now, if you deduct all your operating expense from the gross profits, you get your operating profit. Now, a very good example of operating expense is administrative costs, distribution costs. Yeah, so these are operating expenses. Now, operating profit is also called profit before interest and tax. Operating profit is also called profit before interest and tax. And your operating profit margin reflects efficiency in core operations before financing and tax. Financing is your interest, tax remains tax. So you're looking at, okay, if I didn't pay tax, if I didn't pay interest, how much is my profit? That is your operating profit. Yes, because your interest is not your interest can be avoided. That is, if you did not borrow loan. If you don't borrow loan, you would avoid that interest you are paying. So you're trying to look at, okay, let me judge my profitability without considering tax and interest. That is your operating profit. So operating profit margin says operating profit divided by revenue. Yes, operating profit divided by revenue. Now, return on capital employed. Okay, return on assets first. Says profit before tax divided by total assets. So it says return on assets. Now, the profits you can give to your asset is your profit before tax. Yes, profit before tax. Now, the reason why you are using profit before tax is because you can even claim tax on your assets, like capital allowance. So yes, you can claim tax benefit from your asset. That's capital allowance. So anytime you are calculating return on assets, you use profit before tax. Yes, divided by the total asset. So the a return on assets measures how well a company asset generates earnings. Okay, if you say you have 100 million worth of assets, how much profit are you generating from that asset that you have? So that is return on assets. The return on capital employed, which is what we popularly call ROCE or ROCE, is operating profit divided by capital employed. Return on capital employed is operating profit divided by capital employed. And your capital employed is your equity plus non-current liabilities. So equity is shares or contribution from shareholders. Then non-current liability is long-term debt. So that is how you calculate your capital employed. Return on capital employed measures how efficiently long-term capital is utilized. So your long-term capital is your equity and your long-term debt So that is that. So we don't really have much time. Okay, I think we have a practical session. I would explain more on this when we get to the practical session. So I just want to wrap up this in the next 10 minutes. So we just go straight to Excel and see how we compute this ratio on Excel. So liquidity ratio is used to assess short-term health. Liquidity ratio is used to assess short-term health. Now, I've already explained what liquidity means. It means that you are trying to measure the working capital of the business. So there are three major liquidity ratios that we'll be using in our financial analysis class. The first one is a quick ratio, current ratio. We have current ratio, we have quick ratio, then we have cash ratio. Now, current ratio, it's actually what we call the broadest measure of short-term solvency. It indicates if current assets covers all the current liabilities. So the formula for your current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. Now, your current ratio should be between 1.5 and 2.0. Yes. The ideal ratio for current ratio is minimum of 1.5. If you have less than 1.5, it means that your current ratio is not good enough. So yeah. So and if you have less than one, that means the business is in problem. The business is in problem. If you have more than 2.0, it means the company is doing well. It means the company is doing very well. So that is that. So that's current ratio. Now, current ratio, you are like comparing the current asset with the current liabilities. Yeah. Now, quick ratio is also called the asset test ratio. Now, quick ratio and current ratio are similar. The difference is that you are deducting inventory from your quick ratio. You are deducting inventory from your quick ratio. So current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities is your quick ratio. As the name implies, we call it asset test ratio. So you're like, okay, quick. At times, we use quick ratio for companies that it takes them time to sell their inventory. So a very good example, if a car company that sells car, it may take them time to sell the car because number one, car is not something that everybody buy. Yes, if somebody buy a car this year, the person may not buy another car in the next 2, 3 years. Unlike food, if you eat today, you enjoy. You eat 3 times a day. If you eat in the morning, you still need another food in the afternoon. So people selling food, they may not use quick ratio, they may use current ratio because their inventory move fast. So quick ratio is used for businesses whereby the inventory moves slow, Yes, just like a car manufacturing business. So yeah, so you're like, okay, let me remove the inventory, then let me test my liquidity, or let me test the business liquidity. So it's a stricter test excluding inventory, which may not be easily converted to cash. So if you have inventory that cannot be easily converted to cash, a very good example like a car manufacturing company. So yeah, you should use quick ratio. Exactly. So now, cash ratio on the other hand is the most stringent measure for measuring liquidity, and it focuses on just the cash and cash equivalent. So the cash ratio is simply cash and cash equivalents divided by current liabilities. So that's the current ratio. Sorry, cash ratio. That's the cash ratio. So yeah. So okay, this is another example here. I would look more at the practical example when we start the practical session. So I will just use this medium to explain the theoretical aspect of the course. So lastly, we'll be looking at efficiency ratio. Efficiency ratio is what we call operational effectiveness. So we are testing the inventory, the payables, the receivables. So we have different metrics used to test the efficiency of a company using the efficiency ratio. We have inventory turnover, we have the receivables turnover, we have the payables turnover, then we have the total assets turnover. Now, inventory turnover is cost of sales divided by average inventory. Cost of sales divided by average inventory. Now, you agree with me that inventory can be found in your cost of sales. Cost of sales is opening inventory, add purchases, less closing inventory. So when you're calculating your inventory turnover, you use cost of sales divided by inventory. Receivables turnover, you divide revenue by average trade receivables. Then payables turnover is cost of sales divided by average trade payables, while your total asset turnover is revenue divided by total assets. The inventory turnover measures the frequency of stock replacement within a defined period. How frequent do you replace your inventory? That is what the inventory turnover test. Receivable turnover indicates the speed at which the company collects payment from their customer. Do your customers pay you on time? or they take a longer time to pay you. So your receivables turnover will determine whether your company spend a lot of time, your clients or your customers spend a lot of time to pay back what they are owing you. Payables turnover is you measuring the efficiency with which you pay your supplier. Yes, the efficiency with which the company pay its supplier, that's the payables turnover. How long does it take you to pay your suppliers? That's the payables turnover. That's what we're saying. Cost of sales divided by average trade payables. Then the total asset turnover assess the overall utilization of all assets to generate the total revenue. So yeah. So that's just basically the theoretical aspect of the three ratios or three categories of ratios we are looking at. So for under profitability, we have like four of them. Under liquidity, we mentioned three. Under efficiency, we mentioned four. That's 11 ratios altogether. So we'll be looking at each of these ratio. We'll be looking at each of these ratio on Excel. So I have an Excel spreadsheet that we'll be using. Yes. Then we also have comparative and trend analysis. We're also going to look at that. So trend analysis is used to compare trends or to analyze trends. Like, oh, you're comparing different years. Like, oh, what happened between last year and this year? What happened between 2023 and 2024? What happened between 2022 and 2023? So you are comparing the trends. What happened between 2021 to 2023? So just like you are seeing this chart on my screen. So I think we can move straight to Excel now. We can move straight to Excel to at least so that I can guide you on how to use this ratio. So I'll be sharing this document with you. I'll be sharing this document with you. So, but for now, we're going to look at each of the ratio. Then this exercise that we have is going to be your assignments. Yes, this exercise is going to be your assignments. So, okay. All right, so let's just begin. Let's begin. So for profitability, so these are income statements. We have income statements, revenue, cost of sales, gross profits, and the likes, and net income. So if you want to calculate a profitability ratio, we have a gross margin. We have the gross margin, which is gross profit over sales. Gross profit over sales. So our gross profits over sales will be equals to. So now we have for year 1, 2, year 3, 4, 5. So we have to do for each of the year. So now what you do is you say gross profit divided by sales is what we want to calculate for gross profit margin. For gross profit margin. So you say gross profits. So your gross profit is for year 1 is on D8. Your gross profit is on D8. This is your gross profit. Then you say divided by revenue, which is this. Gross profit divided by revenue. Then you press enter. So that's showing 7.6%, 7.67%. Now, I love my ratio to always be 1 digit. Yes, that's how I want it. You can choose whichever way you want, but make sure you are consistent. So if you are using 1 digit, make sure you are consistent. Now, I don't need to type the formula again. That's the beautiful thing about financial analysis. I don't need to type the formula again. I can just copy this. Since the gross profit, all the gross profit are on the same line for each year, the revenue on the same line for each year. So what I'll just do is I'll just drag this to the left. Yes. How did I do that? Let me do that again. I can say Control C and paste using Control V. That's number one way. Number two is just come to click on what you want to copy. You will see at the lower end, you are seeing a dot at the edge of the cell. Yes. Click on that and drag to the left. Yeah, so that's a very fast and smart way to copy your function. Now, if you check, you can press your F2. You can press your F2 to know, okay, as you can see, I'm coming. As you can see, this is for gross profit under year one. Under year one. Yes. So let's check this. Let's check the next one. Let's see. Let's press F2. So you can see it has moved to year two. If you check year five, you will also see that if you press F2 and check year five, you see that, yes. So Excel has a functionality that it's how do I put it now? It moves the formula for another cell. So if you move to another cell, the formula also will move to another cell. The reference, yes, that's the right word to use. The reference, it will reference the next cell that correspond. So yeah, so since this is for year one, you can copy this for another year and it will still give the same correct ratio. So that's for the gross profit margin. Does anybody has any question before we move ahead? At least based on what we have discussed so far. Okay, let's finish these profitability ratios first. Operating profit margin. So for operating profit margin, we'll take the operating profits. Our operating profit is earnings before interest and tax. Operating profit is earnings before interest and tax. That's another name for operating profit is profit before interest and tax. And profit is also called earnings. So please take note. You can see it as operating profit or profit before interest and tax or earnings before interest and tax. So yeah. So let's take the earnings before interest and tax for year one is this divided by revenue. How much is our revenue again? How much is our revenue for year one? Anybody? I know it's on the screen, but I want to hear your voice. Or put it in.
9.4.
Yes, that's 9,454. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we'll click on it. Make sure it is these are selected. So we'll check earnings before interest and tax. Yes, 2177. Revenue is 39454. So good, we are good. Then you can press your enter. Now it's telling us that this is what 5.5%. Now, another way is if you can use another formula to copy and paste. So just highlight everything you want to copy. If it is on the same line, yes, you can only do this if everything is on the same line and there is no demarcation in between. So highlight the formula you want to copy and highlight everything that you want the formula to be pasted to, then press Ctrl R. So if you press Ctrl R, it will replicate. Ctrl R means replicates. So it replicates the formula. Yeah. So instead of pressing Ctrl C and pressing Ctrl V, you can just press Ctrl R. It automatically does that for you. It copies the formula. So that is actually how you calculate your operating profit margin. So now for the net profit margin is a net income over sales or net profits. Your net profit can also be called net income. So you say equals to net income, which is this, divided by net sales, which is your revenue. Yes. Now, don't go and do mistake of choosing year two for year one. No. So make sure this is in year one and you only choose year one so you don't make errors. So press enter. So it tells us that the net profit margin is 3.9. Then we can just use Control R. So I'll use Control R. Yeah, Control R is actually the fastest way to achieve this. Control R is the fastest way to achieve this. So yeah. So that is that. Now, the next thing is we are done with calculation of the ratio. Financial analysis does not end with just calculating the ratio. Now, this is the financial statement of one company for different years, year one, year two, year three, year four, year five. Now, if I ask you, looking at these financial statement, which year did the company perform best? Which year did the company perform best? Looking at the figures in the financials, if I ask you, which year did the company perform best? Anybody? Is it year one, year two, year three, year four, year five? Anybody? Nobody is talking. Why
I'll
is
go
that?
with year five.
Okay, year five. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so
Because of the
okay, where else is talking? Abidemi said year five.
I
Emmanuel,
say yes. I will pick year five, judging from the net income we have in year
okay.
five,
Oh, okay, thank you,
2.3.
sir. Thank you, sir. Year five. Looking from the net income, year five has the highest net income. Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Emmanuel Ajayi, do you want to say something? I need your inputs also. I think you've been quiet. Yes. Which one do you choose which year has the best performance so far? Okay, year five. All right. Everybody said year five. But now let's check the ratio. If you check the ratio, which of this ratio reports the best performance? Which of this ratio report the best performance? Let's be sincere. Which of this ratio reports the best performance?
Um, well, if we judge based on net profit margin, we'll go with a year two and three.
Year two and three, we have a tie. Okay, let me come in. Oh, okay, so yeah, okay, year two and three. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel said year two and three. Let's hear from others. Do you agree? Year two and three? Bidemi, okay, I think I'll prefer to call Ajayi. Yeah, since we have two Emmanuel on the call. So, Mr. Ajayi, let's hear you also. Let's hear your opinion. We are quiet. I think is it that difficult? Is it that hard?
We're tired already.
You're tired. Okay. Okay, but let's just okay. So just like Mr. Emmanuel said, year 2 and 3 has the highest net profit margin. But we also look at it from anyway, the net profit margin gives us the overall. Yes,
Yeah.
it actually gives us the overall. So if your gross profit margin is good, but your net profit margin is low, it's not good. It's not good. So the net profit margin is the bottom line and it gives us the overall, which means that is what we are looking at. But if we also look at, if we look at, I think, if you even look at the gross profit margin, you agree with me that year two it has the highest for gross profit margin. Year two has the highest. For operating
Year
margin
two tie,
too, year two has the highest.
no, year two tie with year five in gross
Okay,
margin.
okay, yeah, that's true. Year two ties with year five in gross profit margin, that's correct. But for operating margin, year two has the highest. So I can say that year two has the best performance based on at least comparing the three different ratios. Comparing the three different ratios, even though there are ties for some of the GS or for some of the ratios, but if we're looking at the three ratios together, we can say that year two beats the rest. And now let's come and check year two. Let's check year two. If you check year two has the like almost the least profits. Year one has the least profit, followed by year two. But the profit margin is high. The profit
We
margin
can
is
make it.
high.
Yes, that could be as a result of so many factors.
Okay.
Look at the operating expense, the SG&A.
Yes, the SG&A is
So
okay, is low compared to others.
really low compared to other after year one. So
Yeah.
from year, if you look at the margin between that year two and year three, five, year four, five is so wide. So that means inflation, the sales in year five, year four, quite good. But because of increase in cost of operation in SG&A, so which can be tied to a lot of things, maybe government policy, inflation, and the likes. So spike up the operating expenses of the company. So which consequently will affect the net profit margin. That's what give year two that advantage.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with you, sir. So when we're analyzing the financials, we're not just looking at the numbers, we're looking in depth. We're looking in depth, and that is what the financial ratio help us to achieve. So, but this ratio that we've computed below is telling us that in year two, you're able to manage costs to the barest minimum. Even though your revenue in year two was still low compared to other years, but you're able to manage costs to the barest minimum. So, which means that your profit margin, your net profit margin is what? 4.5. That's the highest so far. So, if you are increasing revenue and your cost is increasing at a higher proportion, then you are not doing well. So that is what this profitability margin is talking about. That, oh, we're trying to check the proportion of the revenue increase with the what? Proportion of the what? Costs increase. Yeah. So that is actually what the ratio is. So now the lesson that we are learning is we don't just assess the performance of a company by mere looking at the financials. So if you just look, just like when I asked everybody, everybody said year five. Because looking at the financials, year five has the highest net income. But when we use our ratio, we now see that year two perform better. Year two perform better. And that's because of the fact that the company was able to manage cost. So if I analyze the financial statement of this company, I would always use year two as a benchmark. I say, oh, reduce your cost to the barest minimum. The company was able to reduce their cost to the barest minimum in year two. All right, so that's just that. That's that about profitability. Okay. We have balance sheets here. Okay. So I think we can calculate. So let's quickly calculate some of the. Let's quickly calculate some of the. Okay, I'm coming. So since we have balance sheets here, I want us to calculate the. I want us to calculate the other two ratios: return on assets. So return on assets, I'll just use this. Return on assets is actually what's our return on assets? Profit before tax. Abi? Profit before tax divided by total assets. Let's not forget the ratio here. The ratio is here. Yes. Profit before tax divided by total assets times 100. Profit before tax divided by total assets times 100. So that is how you calculate your return on assets. So let's go back. So now this ratio will change. This ratio will change. So profit before tax is here. Our profit before tax is here. Where is it? This is profit before tax divided by total assets. Our total asset is here. Our total asset is here. So you enter. So this is 9.6. So we'll just copy. Now we would want to use this other ratio to still judge the profitability. We have return on assets. Now, return on assets, you cannot use these first three ratio that we calculated. You can use only the P or L to calculate them. But the reason why we didn't calculate this return on assets is because we need elements, we need items from the financial position before we can calculate. So that's why we have to bring in the balance sheet here, which is also the statement of financial position. So we can also calculate for the return on capital employed, return on capital employed, return on capital employed. Return on capital employed is actually profit before interest and tax, which is earnings before interest and tax, divided by capital employed. And our capital employed is, what's our capital employed again? Anybody? What's our capital employed? Oh, we are tired. Capital employed is equity plus non-current liabilities. Let's not forget. Capital employed is equity plus non-current liabilities. So let's start with the EBIT. Our EBIT is 2177 divided by if you now because you want to add equity and non-current liabilities together, you are going to open brackets so that BODMAS can take effect. Oh no. Wait, I think I hope there is no error. Wait, this is year one. Oh, I think there's an error. Let's quickly look at and fix this error. I didn't even realize that it has shifted. So these are year one. We need to go and check this ratio again. Okay, I think we are good. Total assets. This is okay. E59. Okay, we are good. We are good. So return on capital employed is earnings before interest and tax. Yeah, I think we used profit before tax, have we? Did we? Let me check. Oh, okay, something was telling me that we made an error. So there's an error here. We're supposed to use profits before tax. But what did we use? We used EBIT, and that's wrong. So please take notes. We're supposed to use profit before tax. So we're going to change that. Profit before tax is income before taxes, which is 2199. So yes, that's what we are using. 2199 divided by total assets. Divided by total asset. Yes, total asset is 22563. That's correct. So let's copy this by using Control R. Seventeen and 59. Okay, this is on 17. Total asset is on row 59. Good. So yeah. So this is correct. So please, you need to be sure that there is no error. It's very, very important to check. Now, so now we have return on capital employed. Return on capital employed is earnings before interest and tax, which is 2177 divided by your capital employed is, so you open brackets, equity. Your equity is what? Shareholders' equity is what? 9380 plus we have non-current liability. Non-current liability is what? 5665. So that's your capital employed. You close your brackets and press enter. Now, we need to check to be sure. EBIT, earnings before interest and tax, yes, divided by equity plus non-current liability. This is total equity. This is total non-current liability. So yes, we are good. We are good. So you just copy these and paste by using Control R, use replicate. Use replicate. Now, after we've done the other two ratios, using the other two ratios, which year did the company achieve high profitability? Let's look at it again. Which year? Which year did the company achieve high profitability?
Still year two. Year two still
Yes,
take
it's still year two. Year two take the highest return on assets, 10.8. Year two takes the highest return on capital employed. So that's actually good. But if you're looking at it, if you say, we have 11,392 assets. Meanwhile, we have 2003 we did better in year five. So if you're just looking at the financial statement, it might be misleading and you might be having a wrong interpretation. And that's why it's good you calculate the ratio. So the company performed best in year two based on the profitability ratios that we have solved. So that's actually that on profitability. Let's quickly look at liquidity. Well, our time is fast spent. Let's wrap up with liquidity. Uh, liquidity. Okay, so for liquidity, I will just do for all those three.
Though, sorry for that year too. What one can, if I would argue and advise, even though uh, I will still vote for year five,
Okay.
but I will still vote for year five, but advise the company to increase sales. Because if you look at the time value of money, one, look at the distance in year, and then the company has grown. The company is a growing company. If you look at the sales in year one to year two, three, up to five. So as the company is growing, definitely the cost of operation will be increasing because you will employ more staff to meet that level of sales. But it's just to engage those people selling and doing their work to do more so that to cover their expenses. Because it may be difficult to reduce or to say they want to reduce cost, considering inflation, considering other factors that associate with growth.
Yes, I
If I,
understand. I understand your
if
point.
I want to be sure, I will not be using the year two sales to project future to the next 3, 4 years again.
Yes, I get your point, sir. So yes, definitely revenue must increase. So we're not saying that our revenue we should relax on this 42 million or 42,000. We should still anticipate for more revenue. But as we're anticipating for more revenue, we should also anticipate for cost reduction. So we can use year two as a benchmark and say that, okay, if our revenue is this, then our cost of sales should be this percentage. So we can use year two as a
Yeah.
benchmark. We can use year two to project. We are still going to, I'll still going to teach you how to project. So we can say that, okay, let's use year two to project. Let's use year two to project. So since we achieved the best in year two, um,
That's okay.
I'm coming.
39 divided
So
by
let me use my dollar sign here. Yeah. So I want this to be represented in percentage. Okay. And okay, good. So I can now drag this down. Okay, so I can use this as a benchmark to say that, okay, my my revenue, so just like we have here, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to use this here. Let me go and copy that formula. Uh, F6. Okay, this should be E. Yeah, E. Okay, good. At least just to answer your concern, sir. So this is 4.5. The net profit margin here is 4.5. It's the same thing. So we're saying that, oh, in year two, we have the highest net profit margin. So we're going to use this as a benchmark. This is what we need. We're not looking at the figure. We're not looking at the figure. We're saying, okay,
Yeah.
for our company, our profit margin should not be lower than 4.5% because we achieved that in year two. We're able to achieve that in year two. Our gross profit margin should be 8.1 or nothing less than 8.1%. So we're using year two as a benchmark based on the margin, but our revenue can still increase, just like you have said, sir. So there's inflation, cost keeps increasing. So the inflation will also help us to be able to manage cost control. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this thing is expensive. Oh, should I buy? If I buy it, it will affect my profit. Oh, let me bargain with my supplier so that they can reduce the cost for us. So
Yeah.
it will also help you to consider this when you're making decision. But what we're just trying to say is that we are not looking at the figures, but we're looking at the percentage, and that is what we use while we are making decision.
Yeah, I get it.
So yes, thank you so much, sir, for that addition. Madam Olarewaju, you are welcome on board, ma. It's good to have you on board, even though you've actually missed a whole lot. But yeah, it's good to have you on board, ma. So welcome to class.
Thank you.
Yes, you're going to, yes,
Thank
you have access to the recorded video. You have access to the recorded video. So yes. So all right. So okay, so let's just go to the next, which is liquidity. We don't have much time. Liquidity is what we are looking at now. So liquidity, we have current ratio. Current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. Now, we have quick ratio. Quick ratio, which is also called acid test ratio, is current assets minus inventory.
That's fine.
Oh, sorry, I used underscore. Current assets minus inventory. Yes, current asset minus inventory divided by current liabilities. Then we have the last one is our cash ratio. So cash ratio is our cash ratio is cash and cash equivalents. Cash and cash equivalents over I think I will just copy this and paste here. Yeah. So this is liquidity efficiency. So we're coming to efficiency very soon. So this is liquidity. All right, so let's quickly look at the liquidity ratio. So the liquidity ratio, current ratio is current asset over current liability. So we want to look at, okay, the same company, what's the liquidity position? So we say that in year two, the company has the highest profitability, like profitability ratio, the best profitability ratio in year two. So liquidity we say current assets, so equals to current assets. Our current assets here is total current assets is 3751. Yes, 3751 divided by current liability. Our current liability is 7518. So that's 0.5. Now, take note, your current ratio, you represent it by 0.5 ratio 1. So this is what I would do. Equals to, okay, I'm trying to see if I can do something. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is what I was trying to do. Okay, but it's giving me something else. Okay, so maybe I will just leave it at 0.5. I'll just leave it at 0.5. So another, so 0.5. So this should be 0.5 ratio 1. 0.5 ratio 1. Let me remove the percentage. Yeah, 0.5 ratio 1. Good. So that's our current ratio. So we can just duplicate this by pressing Ctrl R. So I can still use this here. 0.5 ratio 1. This is 0.58 ratio 1. 0.58 ratio 1. This is 0.74 ratio 1. 0.74 ratio 1. This is 0.71 ratio 1. Yes, this is 0.71 ratio 1. So that's our current ratio. Now for our quick ratio, we say that this is okay, still the same thing as this. We just copy this. Let's copy this, Control C and Control V. Okay, oh. Now, let me use this to explain something so we are clear. If you check, is not current, it will not copy the current asset and current liability. It will copy something else, and I will explain. So yes, copying a long-term debts. What else is it copying? Investment. So yes, but what we can do is, the reason why is because it doesn't follow the rule. The rule is that it has to be on the same line. So like all these things that are on the same line, it still give us the same thing. Like we have current liabilities, we have current asset divided by current liabilities. That's what we have. If we check what we have here too, it's current assets divided by current liability, which is correct. Now, the reason why when we copy this and paste here, it didn't give us current asset and current liability is because it's not on the same line. Now, we can correct that. The line here, the line here is now the line here is E32. The if you check, 48 is where the current liability is, and 32 is where the current asset is. So what we'll do is we would there's a way we can tell Excel and say, it is this line I want, or don't change it. Because if you don't give Excel that instruction, Excel will automatically move the line. But you're telling Excel that no, I want to use current assets. So there's a way you can hold the current assets by using the dollar sign or pressing F4. If you press F4, yes, if you press F4 two times, so the dollar sign is appearing before 32. So you're saying that, okay, it is this 32 that I want. Make sure the dollar sign is showing before 32. Make sure the dollar sign is showing before 32. Then we'll do the same thing. You press F4 for your 48. 48 is the current liability. So you press F4. Now it's showing before E, but we don't want it to appear on E. We only want it to be on the 48. So it's on 48 also. So now you press enter. So it's still 0.5. Now if you copy this and paste here, the figure will change. The figure is now 0.5. Now let's check. Now it's still telling us what? Current asset over current liabilities. So that's it. So, but now the formula has changed. The formula has changed. We are deducting inventory. We are deducting inventory. And our inventory is in our inventory is, where is our inventory? Under current assets. Inventory is under current assets, which is this. Yes. So we can just put this in, we can put this in brackets so that the rule of Bodmer's can be followed. We can put this in brackets. Yeah, so that the rule of Bodmer's can be followed. Anyway, I think division comes before subtraction. Yeah, but we want the subtraction to be deducted first. Because if you don't put the bracket, what is Excel will do? Excel will use Bodmer's, because Bodmer's is actually what mathematical calculation are. Every mathematical calculation use Bodmer's. Yes, arithmetic. Bracket of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. So imagine if we don't put these brackets, division comes before subtraction. So what it will do is it will first of all divide this before minusing this, but that's not what we want to do. So we are telling you that, okay, let's put this bracket first. So you also need to be able to present your formula the correct way. You are going to what? Excel will calculate it for you. So yes, yes, I think we are good. So we say that current assets minus inventories divided by current liability is good. So press your enter. So we are good. So this is 0.30. So okay, this is 0.50 ratio 1, 0.51, 0.51 ratio 1. So now this is going to be 0.3, 0.30 ratio 1. This is 0.5. Okay, let's copy this formula and paste. So we just replicate. Let me see if I can use concatenate. Concat this, comma. What else do I want to use? Okay, ratio 1. Okay, I need to close it. My concat function is not working. It's not working. So it's giving me the figures in a long way, and I don't want that. Okay, so let me use another thing I can do is to my formula is becoming so uh is becoming so long. But I know what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, yeah. So it gives me what I want. So this is exactly what I want. So I don't have to be pressing everything. This is what I want actually. Yeah, this is what I want. So good. This formula is very long. Okay, when we get to the advanced aspect of this course, you understand because I can't start explaining that now. This is is actually an advanced formula on Excel, but it's something that you are going to also learn as we continue the class. So nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. So there's no limitation to what you can do. So yes, so that's just that. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. So cash and cash equivalents, cash and cash equivalents. So I think I can even use this formula here. So cash and cash equivalents we say equals to cash and cash equivalents. So cash and cash equivalents. So short-term investments, account receivables, inventories. Okay, the only cash we have here is this because this short-term investment is not it's not cash equivalent. So we'll say divided by current liability. So current liability is actually here. Current liability, where is it? Oh, this is it. So we say cash and cash equivalents, which is here, divided by current liability here. So that's that. What's going on? Cash and cash equivalent divided by current liability, right? Oh, what's happening? This is supposed to be here. Current liability is here. Okay, good. So, all right. So these are cash and cash equivalents, cash ratio. These are cash ratio. Okay, good. So these are cash ratio. Now, if we check, these are the interpretations. So this is telling us that our current assets compared to our current liability is 0.5. So if you check year one, in short, the current asset is less. If you check, wait. Current asset divided by current liabilities. Our current asset is 3751. Yes, current liability is 7518. So current asset is less than the current liability. So this company, the liquidity is a mess. Is a mess. The liquidity is poor. In short, the moment I'm seeing 0 points for liquidity is a no-go area. The liquidity of this company is poor. It's poor. It's very poor. Is it okay? Is it clear? Or do we have anybody that wants to contribute to what we have here?
I think you are right. No, I think the standard is 1.5, I think. Should it be?
Yes, 1.5 for current ratio. For quick ratio is 1.0.
So
For
it's
current ratio is 1.5 ratio 1. For quick ratio is what? 1.0. 1.0 ratio 1. So yeah.
uh, it's obvious that okay, the liquidity ratio is terrible.
It's very, very terrible. So the liquidity position of this company is very, very terrible. It's very, very
Even
terrible. So, but what we can advise them generally is they should try and increase their current assets or reduce their current liability. So if you check
yeah,
their current assets, uh, they have short-term investments, cash, account receivables, prepaid expense are nil, other current assets. But if you check current liability, the current liability is massive. Account payable. So the account payable is on the high side. Is on the high side. So that is that. So and I think the account payable is actually taking most of it. So the best decision is they are owing their supplier too much. They should try and reduce that. They should try, but if they have a good relationship with the supplier, they might
I want
they may not
in a
have
way they are
uh,
trading with a supplier. So it's a plus if we look at it in another way.
so
If this,
exactly. So if they have good relationship with the supplier, because if the supplier is not happy, you guys are owing me. After all, the supplier can if okay, let's put ourselves in the shoe of the supplier. You have five customers that you sell to. One of them is owing you since last 2 years. He has not paid. And there's a particular one that he always pay you in short, he does not owe you. So if you are in short supply of your resources, who will you deliver to first?
the one that pays.
Yes, the one that pays. So even though, except if that supplier is part of your group and you have a related party, you're a related party to that person, then you can say, okay, yes, you can take advantage of that. But um, so it's always good that we try as much as possible to do things at a moderate level. So, but this non-current current liabilities on the high side for the trade payable. So we should try as much as possible. Is either we increase our current assets, we find a way to increase our current assets, and the only best way to do that is having more cash at hand, having more cash. Yes, if you have more cash, you'll be able to have more liquidity. So, and maybe what the company can also do is, I think they invested more in assets. If you check their assets, their non-current assets, where is it? PPE. So if their PPE reduce and you're able to have some cash, it's also going to make sense. But what we're trying to say is that for the company to improve their liquidity, they need to increase their current assets and find ways to reduce their current liabilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So that is
I
that.
the,
Do we
the
have
reason why
somebody? Okay, please go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
the reason why the uh, foreign liability is that high is because of the liquidity issue. So that's why
Yes, yes,
I say
yes.
maybe they would have been able to
They,
pay on
they would
time.
have been able to pay exactly. They would have, in short, something is telling me that this guy, if I say they don't pay him at all, though. In year one, it's 5,000. Year two, it's increased to 6,000. Year three, is 7,000. It's increasing. Year
Massively.
six is going, in short, is going to double what it was in year five. So there's likelihood that they didn't pay anything or they just pay little amount that is not enough. So,
No, they will pay
so
am.
they need more cash. They need more cash for this business. They need more cash for this business. So yes, thank you for that. I think Mr. Emmanuel is actually the assistant lecturer for this for today's class. Other people are just quiet. I don't like it when my class is quiet. I always like students to also at least bring up ideas and we share these ideas together. So yes, thank you so much, sir, for your contribution. I think I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So the next thing we are looking at is efficiency. Let's look at our efficiency ratio quickly. Our inventory turnover, we have. So I'm going to do inventory turnover. Inventory turnover and inventory days, they are the same thing though. It's just that you are using different things to look for the same thing. So inventory turnover, you are representing it in times. You are representing it in time. So how do I achieve that? I say that my cost of sales, inventory turnover is cost of sales divided by inventory. Inventory turnover is cost of sales divided by inventory. So I say cost of sales. Where's my cost of sales? My cost of sales is up here. Okay, I'm going to use absolute figure because my cost of sales here is showing negative. So Excel, you can use absolute figure. That is, you don't want the negative symbol to affect your formula. So you by saying absolute, that's ABS. ABS is a function that returns the absolute figure. So let's just experiment that. Absolute of 3, 2. So this is the negative figure. Let's press enter. If you can see, it's just showing us the positive figure. So it has removed, it has neutralized the negative. So that's the function of the absolute on your Excel. So there are a lot of formulas on Excel that will make your work easier. And that's the beautiful thing of joining this class so that you can understand all these formulas. So we're not done. Cost of sales divided by inventory is what we want. So we've been able to look at the cost of sales alone. Then we'll say divided by inventory. Inventory is this on 29, yeah. So our inventory turnover is 24.88. Now, it's always good that you represent it in times. Your inventory turnover is represented in times. So I'm trying to see how I can represent this in time. So I'll use my concat formula. I'll use my concat formula. This formula is becoming so complex. So yeah, I'm pissing you people. But anyway, we'll cope. So concat, uh, concat, I use comma, then I use times. Okay, this to, I need to round this. I'll round this to 2 digits. Yes, 24.8. Okay, let me round it to just 1 digit. One decimal place. 24.9 times. Good. So, what we've just done here is cost of sales divided by inventory. But don't worry, I know the formula is looking advanced, but these are part of the things you're going to learn as the class go on. But what we just did here is cost of sales divided by inventory. Yeah, cost of sales divided by inventory, just like you're seeing here. But we represent inventory turnover in times. So yeah. So now, the next thing is inventory over cost of sales times 365. Inventory over cost of sales times 365. Okay. So now we say inventory. Where's our inventory? Inventory. Inventory is there. Where is inventory now? Okay, inventory is there. Divided by cost of sales is up. Now, for cost of sales, we are going to still use absolute figure. We use absolute figure for cost of sales. Then we say times 365 times 365. So that's 14.67. So let me use, I always like one decimal place. Okay. Now this is going to be in days. This is going to be in days. So your inventory days is going to be in days. Your receivables turnover. So I think I will just change this. So I'll use this same formula, but I'll change it. So I'll change this to receivables turnover is receivables, sales over receivables. So your sales figure is revenue, which is this. You don't need the absolute again, actually. You don't need the absolute since revenue is in. But you can still use it the same way. Divided by receivables. Receivables. Where's your receivables? Receivables is here. Your account receivables. Yeah. So this is your receivables turnover. So we can just duplicate this. We duplicate this. Receivables days. Let's check. Receivables days is our receivables days is supposed to be receivables times over sales times 365. Receivables over sales times 365. So your receivables is your receivables is on 28. So just say E28 divided by sales. Your sales is this times 365. 8.3, yeah. So copy and paste. So that's how you calculate your receivables days. That's how you calculate your receivables days. Does anybody has any question? Does anybody has any question based on what we have done so far? Or it's like we are tired. I'm not getting vibes from us anymore. Any question based on what we have done so far? Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, sir. So, but I'm not getting a response. But this is very clear. Is this very clear to us? What we have done so far, is it very clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, inventory turnover is cost of sales divided by inventory. So we are looking like, okay, this inventory, how long will it take us to change our inventory in a year? So it says 24.9 times. Now, if you come here and say that 365 divided by 14.7, you get 24.9 also. You get 24.9, which is exactly what we have here. So I'm trying to explain the difference between the relationship between inventory turnover and inventory days. So your inventory turnover, if you divide it by 365 divided by inventory days, it will give you inventory turnover. So
Yeah.
what the inventory turnover is telling us is that it's telling us how many times will it take us to replace our inventory in a year. So your inventory days is 14.7. It's telling you that, okay, for you to sell your inventory, you will sell your inventory within 14 days. Now that's what it tells you. Now for in a year, how many times can you say 14 days? How many times can you say 14 days? You can say 14 days 24 times because if you say 14 times 7, 14.7 times 24.9, that would give you 365. So for you to be able to change your inventory, um, if it will take you 40.7 days, or let's say 14 days to sell your inventory, then that means you would have restocked 24.9 times, which is approximately 25 times in a year. So that's what inventory turnover and inventory days are explaining. They're explaining the same thing, but just like they are explaining it in different ways. So inventory turnover is saying, oh, how many times will you change your inventory in a year? Inventory day is saying, okay, how long will it take you to sell your inventory before restocking? So that is actually that. So the same thing applies to receivables turnover and receivables days. So receivables turnover is like, oh, how long will it take you to collect your receivables from your customer? That's what the receivables turnover is talking about. That's what the receivables turnover is talking about. How long will it take you to uh, get your receivables from your customer? Now, if you say that 365 divided by 8.3, yes, you get 44.2. So it's still the same thing. Your receivables turnover and receivables days are measuring the same thing, but just that receivables days is saying how long will it take your customer to pay you? Oh, it will take your customer 8 days. But receivable turnover is saying that, okay, your receivables turnover is 44 times in a year, 44 times. So it means that your customer owe you 44 times and pay you in a year. So that's actually the interpretation for receivables turnover. Now, our time is fast spent. We have just 7 minutes to go. I think with what we have done so far, you are going to take payables turnover, payables days. Okay. Maybe in our next class we'll continue from here. But the payables turnover and payable days, you're going to take it as your assignment. At least the formula is there already. So you're going to solve it. Then the PPE turnover, you're also going to solve it. But the working capital funding gap, you can just leave it since the formula is not here. We'll look at that when we meet next week. Then I would want you to also solve this as your assignment. So this one, we only have overall efficiency ratio. So these are some of the stuff that we have dealt with in the class. So you can solve it as your assignments. Yes, so this is where we're going to stop. This is where we're going to stop. So does anybody has any question before we call it a day?
You share this one with us on the platform.
Yes, I will share it on the WhatsApp group. The assignment I gave you last week, nobody submitted. Oh.
I know. So it wasn't there.
Yes, nobody submitted. Bidemi, I think you were in
Just
that class, so you did not submit your assignments. Why? Is Bidemi still in this class? Bidemi, you've gone to bed. Bidemi has left us here. Oh. She's not here.
isn't it?
Okay. The second Emmanuel, are you here now? I hope you have not gone to bed too. Ah, okay, I can see you. I can see you. Uh, so I would share this sheet with us. Let's try to do this. Now, this is what financial analyst does. Yes, and financial analysts, those of us that joined the first webinar we had, these people are earning in dollars, and this is just what they are doing. This is what they are doing, and they are paying them in dollars, in pounds. So if you can learn this also, you have the likelihood of having creating value for companies, helping them to interpret their financial statements and analyzing the financials. So yeah, so okay, it seems like we don't have questions. In the absence of question, this is where we're going to stop today. So please let's ensure that we solve the assignment I gave us last week and also this one before this week ends. At least on latest on Saturday, let me get it so that we can start planning for the next week. So yes, next week we're going to continue with ratio analysis. We'll continue from where we stop. We'll look at the other ratios too. And then before we move to other things. So yeah. So all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining and do enjoy your night rest.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Emmanuel Ajayi, this is your first time joining. Oh, he has left. I actually wanted to hear his feedback, but he has left. Okay, it's fine. So, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.